So in today's video, I want to show you how I created this epic product poster from scratch using only custom brushes. Now, the only asset that I've used is the mock-up of my coming soon brush bundle, the ultimate brush bundle version 3. It includes 176 brushes categorized in 11 brush packs, from northern lights to lightning, fire, water, birds, waterfalls, rocks, planets, moons, basically everything you can imagine, all in this bundle. Now I'm gonna use that bundle to create this product poster and to basically demonstrate you how to use these brushes. Now I started off with this document and you can see all I have is one layer, and that is actually the mock-up of my bundle, let's say. And I want to start off by creating two rectangles, so I'm gonna press U on the keyboard and I'm gonna create one rectangle right here, or actually one rectangle covering everything. Let's drag this below our mockup layer, and this is gonna be the background. So this is gonna be, let's say, almost black, something like this, and maybe we want to have some slight blue tone to it, something like this. And then I want to create another rectangle, so this one is probably gonna be from the middle down. And this rectangle I'm gonna fill with some other color, I think more orangey, like in the original, or more brownish or something like this. All right, now obviously this is the ground plane, so I want to drag it underneath my mockup layer, and let's actually call this one surface, and this is background. Now I want my surface to have some texture, so with my surface layer selected, I'm going to create a new pixel layer, and I'm going to go to our texture brushes, and these are actually available to everybody. And I think I'm going to grab this one, press B on the keyboard, and I just want to brush in some texture. Now I want the opacity a little lower, the flow a little lower, so maybe 20% flow, and I'm just going to gradually brush in some texture. Let's grab another brush as well for some different texture. And of course we want the opacity to be lowered, flow to be lowered, maybe 18. And let's grab some other one for some different textures. Let's reduce the flow a whole lot. And let's do the same thing. All right, so now we've got some nice texture going on. So this texture we want to shape, and we want to reshape it, or we want to put it in perspective so that it actually looks like our subject is standing on it. So I'm gonna grab my perspective tool, and I'm just gonna drag these lines out and drag these ones right here, somewhere around here, and drag these ones out so that it actually looks more in perspective, like so. All right, and let's hit apply. All right, so now this starts to look like something, but we're far from done yet. So let's actually first rename our layers. Let's group these two together because this is the surface, let's say. And what I want to do now is I want to create depth to my image. So I want the surface not to be such a harsh line, let's say. I want to basically mask it out just a little bit. So I'm going to use a layer mask for this. So I'm going to create a layer mask, not on this layer, but on the group. I'm going to press G on the keyboard for my gradient tool, and what I'm going to do now is just click and drag from the center, from the bottom up, and this looks about fine to me. So now we've got this nice gradient. Now you can see we get this weird green halo thingy going on, something I don't really want. The blend mode of this group is now set to pass through, but once I set it to normal, you can see that we actually get the view or the result that we want. So let's position this something like this. All right, now let's create some spotlights. So we've got our surface right here with our background layer selected. I'm going to create a new pixel layer, and I'm going to go to the IAMRENSI light brushes, which are these ones right over here. And in the light brush pack, you will find 11 lens flares and 10 spotlights. So we can basically just grab any spotlight. So I'm going to press B on the keyboard, make sure white is set as a foreground color. And let's drag this first to the top so we can see what kind of spotlight this is. So there's multiple different spotlights. Actually, this one I really like, so we're gonna drag this one, position this one somewhere around here. So I'm gonna press, just click once, grab my move tool and I'm going to position it outside of our canvas, and then I'm going to drag it below our mockup layer. So that is going to be our first spotlight. Let's create another pixel layer and drag it to the top so I can see what I'm doing. Let's press B on the keyboard. This actually looks pretty good as well. So I'm going to click once in the center. I'm going to reposition it to the corner and position it around here. And I'm going to duplicate this one by pressing Command G and rotating it the other direction and position it somewhere around here. And obviously these two I also want behind my mockup. Now, of course, if we have some spotlights, I want to darken the background here further and maybe brighten it up here in the front a little bit, but mostly darken it in the background. So I'm going to go back into my surface layer, and I'm going to select my texture layer, and then I'm going to create an exposure adjustment layer on the top, and I'm just going to darken it a whole lot, so something like this. And then I'm going to use the gradient tool once again to brighten the foreground, or actually to darken the background, let's say. Something like this looks pretty good. So this was the before and this is the after. It looks much better to me. So now it's time to create some shadows, because of course our lights are casting shadows on our software box, let's say. So I'm gonna start off by the middle one. So I'm just gonna click here in the center, and I want to make sure that I'm gonna cross this point, let's say, and I want to drag it all the way out. So something like this, and for the other side as well. So I'm just going to go to the center here because we've got a one spotlight, and now I want to move this point around. So I'm going to hold Command, select this one, and I'm just going to make sure that it actually intersects with this corner right here. Now all I want to do is turn this thing into a selection, and with this selection loaded, let's say, I want to create an exposure adjustment layer. And now I'm going to decrease the exposure and press Command D. And now you can see that we've actually got some very nice hard shadow going on. And that is the shadow casted from this light. Now we want to do the same basically with this light and with this light. So what I'm going to do now is the same thing. I'm going to grab my pen tool. I'm going to go to the corner here. And I just want to make sure that I'm crossing this corner right here. Like so. And I'm going to do the same for the other side. And I want to go back all the way here to this corner. And now I want to position this one so that it intersects with that corner, like so. And of course, because we're using the pen tool, you want to make sure that we close the loop and hit selection once again. And with our selection active, I'm going to create another exposure adjustment layer and reduce the exposure and press Command D. And this actually creates our mask for our shadows. So maybe we want the outside shadow to be brighter, and let's go back into this one and let's brighten this one up a little bit, something like this. All right, now of course our shadow needs some blur because they are way too sharp right now. And of course, the further we go from the subject, the more blurry our shadow gets. So I'm gonna press Command G by grouping to group these exposures together. And on this group, I'm gonna create a depth of field blur. Now I want to position this dot in the right in the center. Let's say drag this one in, drag this one out. It's something like this, I guess. And now I'm gonna increase the radius, and you can see that from the center outward, it's gonna be more and more blurry. So something like this. But I think this looks pretty good. I can always go back in because it's a live filter. All right, so now we've got some lights, and of course we need some highlights on our subject. So I'm gonna go to my layer in the menu bar, and I'm gonna hit new fill layer. And this fill layer we clip to our mockup layer. Now I noticed that something weird is happening, and I'm really not sure what, because usually it is supposed to have the exact shape of my box, and somehow Affinity Photo makes it a perfect square, which I'm not really sure what is going on here. But I can think of a workaround of doing this. So what I want to do is I want to hide this one for now. I'm gonna create a mask. So I'm gonna command click the thumbnail of my mockup, and I want to put this group or this fill layer into a group. So I'm gonna press Command G, and with my layer selected, I'm gonna create a layer mask for the group. So now you can see usually it doesn't work like this, but now you can see that it actually has the shape of my the box, let's say. And what I want to do now with this fill layer is press Command I, and this inverts the mask of my fill layer. And now once I brush over with white, as you can see, I can brush over with white and it will only be applied to the box, something that usually just happens when you make the fill layer a parent layer or a child layer, I mean. But anyways, let's just continue. So let's start off by the top. So I'm gonna make a selection of the top and maybe make a selection like something like this. Go all the way here and make sure I have a nice selection of the top. Make sure that it goes to the corner nice and neatly. And close the circle, and then we're gonna create a selection out of it. And with this selection active and with my fill layer active, I can now brush only the top of my box, let's say. So I want to reduce my brush size. I'm gonna reduce the flow. Actually, the flow can be still pretty high in the beginning, so I'm gonna drag some nice highlight, or maybe click once, click, and then shift click here. So we get some nice straight line. And with a lower flow, so maybe 4%, I'm just gonna gradually increase the amount of light that is on the top of our box, let's say. So I think this looks pretty okay. Something like this. So let's press Command D, and I think this looks pretty decent. Nothing too crazy, but looks pretty decent. Now we're gonna do the same for the side, so I'm gonna press P on the keyboard to make a selection once again. And of course we want our selection nice and neatly in the corner. Oops. And it is gonna go here and then all the way up. Let's position this where it's supposed to be. Like here. This looks good, so I'm gonna hit selection, and same thing again. I want to brush on the side. Now of course we've got the light from the left side and it's coming from behind a little bit, so maybe something like this. And then at the top here I'm gonna reduce the flow to 3%, maybe reduce the opacity quite a bit, and I'm just gonna brush in maybe something like this. Not really realistic, but I think it does the job. All right, and then on the other side, we've got this light right over here, and I think this costs just a very tiny little rim light on the side right here. So we can just draw this one in. I'm gonna click here, go to the bottom, and then just click once again. And now we've got this very nice straight rim light, let's say. And we can also do the same for this side. There we go. Something like this looks pretty good. All right, so there we have our rim lights. Yeah, it doesn't look perfect, but I think it does the job. And I think I want to turn these lights more bluish because I think they're a bit too white for my taste, let's say. And of course, with it, we can also change the color of our rim lights by just going into our fill layer and changing the color right there. Now, before we're gonna do that, I want to add some more depth maybe to this image. And in the example image, I actually created a light from behind. So maybe we can do that for this one as well. So I'm gonna go into, let's say in my, let's create a layer, a group. Let's call this one lights or spotlights. And let's actually create another one behind the brush pack. So I'm going to go to the IAMRENSI light brushes. All right, let's go for this one. Maybe increase the size a little bit. Something like this looks pretty good. All right, now because we've got this light here, I think we need some extra little tiny thingy here and some extra little tiny thingies here. So let's create these right now. Simple. I'm just gonna go to my mockup layer, and I can hide this group for now. This is gonna be rim light or highlight, and I'm gonna create a new pixel layer, and this one's supposed to be only be inside of my group, but somehow the mask does weird again, so I'm gonna drag it inside of this group. That should fix the job for now. like so. And I'm just gonna use a very soft round brush and just do one little dot right here, just like that. And there I'm gonna do 3 little dots. And maybe one tiny little one here. Just some bleeding of the light, let's say. Maybe I want to have some very subtle light. All right, and now it actually interacts more with the background, I would say. So let's create some particles right now because, yeah, this adds more depth to the image. So let's go to our background. Actually, we can do this above our spotlight. So I'm going to create a new layer above our spotlights, and I can actually put it inside of the group. And we're going to go to the IAMRENSI particle brushes. And yeah, just grab any one of these particles. And I think this one looks pretty nice. Let's create this one. And I don't know, maybe another one, something like this. And what I want to do now is just blur this layer a whole lot. So Gaussian blur, or actually a lens blur works best, I guess. So let's create a lens blur. And let's turn these thingies into kind of bokeh thingies, something like so. And maybe reduce the opacity quite a bit. Like this. And maybe I want to create another particle layer like this. Create a layer mask. Sorry, an empty layer mask. So I'm going to hold Alt, hit empty layer mask, and then brush back in the effect with soft round brush. Make sure your foreground color is set to white, and just click once right here. Click once right here, something like so. And yeah, same thing, just gonna maybe do a Gaussian blur this time and just blur it a little bit so it looks nicer. All right, now in the original example, I had some smoke coming off of this pack, so it was steaming hot. So let's actually do that as well, because I kind of like the effect. Now the smoke was behind the pack. I'm going to create a new pixel layer and drag it just underneath my mockup layer. And I'm going to go to the IAMRENSI smoke brushes, and I'm going to grab either one of these smoke brushes. So I think this one was the one that I used. So let's actually grab this one. Let's increase the brush size a whole lot. Let's stamp it in the middle of our screen, and let's just, yeah, position it how we like it. This looks pretty cool. Now, let's start by color grading this thing a little bit. I want to have some nicer blue background, so I'm gonna maybe go to my spotlights in the back. With my spotlight selected, I'm gonna go and maybe create a white balance adjustment layer and just drag it more to the bluish colors. Maybe a touch of green. This looks pretty good. Actually, I want the smoke to be there as well. So let's drag the smoke below our white balance adjustment layer as well. And now we've got some nice bluish smoke. The foreground looks actually blurry, and that is because of my depth of field layer. And this one is supposed to only affect the group, but it also affects the foreground. Not sure what's going on here. So let's actually just duplicate it and clip it to our exposure adjustment layers. Now I want to darken the background a little bit. Maybe I want to add some fog or haze behind, because this always looks very nice. So let's go to the cloud brushes, and let's just grab some mist brush, which is the mist 1 brush. And this I want to be on top of my surface layer and on top of my everything except for my mockup. So I'm going to create a layer right here, drag it up, and this is going to be mist or fog or haze, maybe haze. Press B on the keyboard, and with our haze brush selected, we just want to brush in some nice subtle haze for interestingness. Now we can set this blend mode to soft light or overlay to have a more subtle effect. If we want to make it stronger, we can duplicate the effect. So I'm just going to press Command J. Looks pretty good. Maybe drag this one out a little bit, something like this, and blend it together. So I'm going to press Command E to merge it together with my other layer. Now we've got some brighter background, let's say, which is pretty cool. And as mentioned, now I need a bit bluer highlights because we made our background bluer. So let's go back into our fill layer and make sure that we get a nice blue, slightly blue highlight. Now the bundle, since it is lit from the back, usually you would darken the bundle quite a bit actually, to make it look more realistic. So what I could do is, yeah, create a brightness adjustment layer and just darken it a little bit, because we've got our lights from the back, and now I want to make sure that our brightness adjustment layer is below our highlights, because otherwise it affects our highlights as well. This looks pretty good. Maybe grab a soft round brush, set the foreground color to black, and just brush in the sides a little bit, just a touch. Now, of course, we had some text. I added my logo right here, so I can actually just grab my logo from my assets panel, and I want to drag it to the top, make it smaller a little bit, position it here, and set the blend mode to 20 or 50 or whatever. Then I've added some text to the bottom, so let's do that right as well. I'm just gonna use my text tool, and it said more, bigger, better, and that is because I've just updated or upgraded the version. So it was version 2, now I made it version 3, and yeah, I've just added a whole bunch of brushes. So it used to be 100 and now it is like 176, I think. More, bigger, better. And at the top I had some text which said coming soon, so let's also drag this one in, coming soon. And I think the font was ethnocentric. And oh yeah, a little good thingy what I've did right here is I made two outlines, as you can see. So these are just layer effects, and you can see a white outline and a black outline as well. And then I've got a gradient fill. So let's first start off by doing the gradient. So I'm gonna go into my layer effects, do a gradient overlay, and you want to make sure it goes from bottom to top. And then I want to create some dark red color, like this one maybe. And the other one, I want to make it just a little brighter, something like this. Looks pretty good to me. And now I want to create two outlines. So I'm going to go to outline, and I'm first going to create a white outline. Increase the radius just a bit, 6 pixels, looks good. And then I want to create another outline, and that is what this little plus icon does. So if I duplicate the effect right now and I choose the bottom one and I create a black outline as well, and then increase the outline to, let's say, 12 pixels. Now we've got two outlines of 6 pixels, let's say. So 6 pixels white and 6 pixels black. And actually I think I want a little bit more, so let's do 16 and 8 maybe, so we have some stronger outlines. Also in the original one I added two lens flares, so I want to do that as well. So let's actually create a new pixel layer, press B on the keyboard and go to our lens flares once again, so the light brushes, and just grab two little lens flares. Let's make them a little bigger, maybe like so. And what we can do to make them a little bluer is add an outer glow and make this outer glow slightly blue, and just add a little glow to them, like this. Now, as final color grade, what we can do is a hue and saturation layer. So I'm going to press Command U. So let's select the blues, and let's drag the blues a little bit to the right, because I want to kind of get this teal color, let's say. Maybe increase the saturation a bit. And then for the reds or the oranges, maybe increase the saturation just a little bit. And maybe I want to increase the levels a bit to make the effect pop more. So I'm going to press Command L and drag the whites to the left. All right, and that is how to create an epic product poster, basically only using brushes. Now, all of these brushes are available. This brush bundle is launching on November 6th, 2023. And if you want to get a grasp of what this bundle is capable of, I've created the IAMRENSI sample pack, which includes 8 brushes of the pack. So you can try it out a little bit. This sample pack is totally free. So if you want to check it out, check the link down below in the video description. Thank you so much for watching this tutorial. I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.